Many of you may wonder about the lights here tonight. You may wonder about the TV cameras. And I'll now tell you what it's all about. This is part of a filming by the Brinkley program that will be used sometime during this coming year. I assume, and I say this knowing what I'm letting myself in for, I assume in a very derogatory way. But in any event, let me say this to you. No matter what they do with this film, no matter what they may say, the people of this country will know one thing. We don't have to hide. For what we do, our actions speak for themselves. Thank you.
His base of power is Detroit, where he began his career with a grocery strike on the day fresh strawberries are being loaded, and where, when he is home, he still lives in a house he bought in 1939 for $6,800. He's been president of Detroit Local 299 for 25 years. Last December, while he was on trial in Nashville, Tennessee, charged with taking money from a trucking firm, he flew home on weekends to campaign for re-election, even though he was a shoo-in, and he knew it.
If we had 3 or 4 more Hoffas in this country, that would be all we need.
He is really the man. He makes us stand up and take notice. One Roosevelt and one Hoffa.
Mr. Hoffa, I thought that Samson was a giant, but you a Lieber giant.
Hey, Jimmy, when you get through with the head, give it to me. I think I could use it on myself. Don't worry about that.
Right. Bobby Kennedy won't win this election. Don't worry about it. We're going to win it, and that's all there is to it.
There was all the apparatus of a democratic election, secret ballots, 2 outside observers, a lawyer and a priest asked to come and watch. Every member had his identity checked, had to sign for his ballot, and as far as we could see, it was an honest election. It also was unique, because this was the first time in Hoffa's career anyone had bothered to run against him.
Well, I'll tell you this, it's the most democratic election I've ever seen.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks.
His opponent was a truck driver named Ira Cook, who said he ran because Hoffa was on trial at the time and because 2 other officers of 299 had already been convicted of taking payoffs, but were nevertheless running for re-election unopposed. Other Teamsters laughed and jeered that Cook was hand-picked by Attorney General Kennedy. Anyway, that is Cook. He lost. Of 16,000 members, less than 4,000 voted, but that is not unusual because truck drivers often are out of town, out on the road, and not here to vote. The official returns, Hoffa, 3,615, Cook, 280.
Hey, Jim, the Kennedys aren't going to make a football out of this Teamsters Union, not while we're around.
I guarantee it. Well, I tell you, Bobby Kennedy's over here running in proxy, you see.
Jerry, did you say Bobby Kennedy was here by proxy, or he's a doxy?
He's worse than that. He's a touch football player.
While Hoffa's own local was voting overwhelmingly for him in spite of his troubles with the law, in another big local, Hoboken, New Jersey, his support was less than overwhelming. The Teamster president there is his friend Anthony Provenzano, known as Tony Pro. He's also a vice president of Hoffa's International Union, and when rallies were organized for him, he saw to it they also were rallies for Hoffa, and for solidarity in the face of the enemy, any enemy, employers, critics, or the law. Mr. Hoffa, a great deal has been written and spoken about you in the last 5 years, and a number of people have tried to describe you. How would you describe yourself?
An average, ordinary human being.
Oh, come on. You could do better than that.
I don't see anything different. I don't... What they write about me is a different question as to what really happens. I come to work every morning, work all day, travel around the country in airplanes, hold meetings, do the same thing you do. Because I hold this position doesn't make me any different than any other person in the labor movement or any other type of operation.
Well, what you're telling me is what you do. What I want you to tell me is what kind of person are you? Are you tough? How do you think of yourself?
Certainly not as tough. I think I know where I'm going to.
Well, then I'm going to quote something that was written about you and ask you what you think of it. All right?
It's all right with me. I've heard a lot of things said that I don't recognize.
All right. Well, I'll ask you if you recognize this. This is written, I think, by Max Lerner, who was a sort of newspaper philosopher. He said, you see life as a jungle, the law as a trap to be got out of, that you work hard, that you get the best lawyers, and when you get into trouble, you bull your way out of it.
I would buy all except the last. I don't bull my way out of it. I work myself out of the way of it by having proper investigations made, presentation of evidence to counteract what the government or somebody else, some prosecutor tries to present, and be able to separate the fact from the fiction. Now, of course, life is a jungle. Anybody who thinks that it isn't just isn't around. Don't know what's going on.
What do you mean by that, Mr. Hoffa?
Everyday life of the average individual is a matter of survival. If by chance he should go from home to work and have an accident and lose an arm or a leg or an eye, he's just like an animal wounded in the jungle. He's out. And life isn't easy. Life is a jungle to be careful and aware of the fact that once you are something other than a Joe Doe, that the people below you, the people around you, who are looking forward to advancement, create part of the atmosphere of a jungle. You have to walk pretty careful and pretty warily or you're in trouble.
The next line was that ethics are what you can get away with. What do you think of that?
Ethics is a matter of individualism. And what may be ethical to you may be non-ethical to myself. Now, I'm not unaware of the fact that a lot of people disagree, probably, with my actions, my ethics. But my ethics is very simple. Live and let live. And those who try to destroy you, make it your business to see that they don't and that they have problems. Just that simple.
I gather you find a lot of hypocrisy in Washington. A lot of people who say one thing while actually doing another.
I think there's more con men in Washington than there ever was in a carnival.
Could you give us some examples? I don't mean names necessarily, but...
There isn't a single thing that I find in Washington that's real. It's a make-believe fantasy. If you could take a congressional subcommittee hearing, which is held in private, and be able to record that, and then take and record the same politicians on the floor, and match the two of them together, you wouldn't recognize it was the same group of people. And that's what I object to. A lot of people don't like what I say, but I say what I think. And if I tell you something, I won't be telling three other people something different.
Mr. Hoffa, I think your opinion is that the Attorney General has got a vendetta against you. Is that right?
I think the record speaks for itself. There's no question about it.
Why do you say that?
All you have to do is check the record. He has 32 grand juries in the United States looking into the affairs of the Teamsters unions. He has seized the records of almost every joint council in this country of any importance, spent months in the international headquarters investigating our books, and cannot be convinced, because he doesn't want to and because of his desire to carry on this fight at the government's expense and his own vendetta, that the records that we file with the government are bona fide, established, accredited records by receipts, vouchers, and checks. No other union in the United States is receiving the same treatment. Now, there's 179 international unions. And if there isn't a vendetta, why is there over 3,000 people at the government's expense and the taxpayers' expense investigating the Teamsters union? Repeatedly. Not once, but repeatedly.
Why would the Attorney General do that?
In my opinion, he is never in his life ran up against a situation he couldn't dominate, that he couldn't control, and have his way. He's just a spoiled young millionaire that never had to go out and find a way to live by his own efforts, and he cannot understand resistance to what he wants. And if you look around this country, he has made almost all of the international unions conform to what he wants. We don't intend to do that. We're going to carry out what our membership wants, within keeping of the law, whether Bobby Kennedy likes it or not.
Here's an interesting point, Mr. Hoffa, that is not very substantial, but I wonder what you think about it. A number of people, writers who have explored this, have found, oddly enough, that you and the Attorney General have a great many characteristics in common. That is to say, you're both energetic, aggressive, ambitious. What do you think of that? You're both devoted to physical fitness.
There's only one thing I like about Bobby Kennedy.
What's that?
His willingness to work and to fight to win. Now, outside of that, I have any use for him.
But you would give him that much credit and no more?
That's all. And I wouldn't even give him that credit because he's not right enough to use his own money. Now, if he would use some of those millions he has and carry on this fight, I'd respect him a little more. But instead of that, he's using the taxpayers' money to carry on the fight for his own personal vendetta.
Do you hate the Attorney General?
Wouldn't waste my time. When you start hating, you forget to think. And I got to think how to beat him, not how to hate him.
Have you ever added it all up just out of curiosity? How much have you been accused of stealing?
I think McClellan said at one time that some $20 million I was responsible for. Never did say how, but he just made the flat statement.
What do you think of Senator McClellan himself?
Faker. Flat, straight out a faker.
In Senator McClellan's hearings, he did have a formidable list of stealing, Dave Beck, among others, in the history of the Teamster Union. But what's your opinion on that?
Well, let's take it. And 107 names. 107 names that he used to build the fabrication of the Senate hearing and his book. I produced, under oath, a breakdown of those 107 names. To where if I was wrong, he could have indicted me and put me in jail. And I proved to him that out of the 107 names, there was exactly 16 people that were on the payrolls of this Teamsters Union. Now, anybody, doesn't take any great brains or imagination or courage to bring a fellow in front of you and sit him down, put him under oath, and then after you had a year or two to investigate, write down the questions and the answers, and then start asking that man the question. Now, I saw McClellan do this. McClellan would ask a question of me. I'll take myself. And I didn't agree with him, and McClellan doesn't mean anything to me. He's just another one of the American people in this country who has no more rights than I have. Same Constitution applies to him. And when I would question what he was saying, invariably, he couldn't remember 5 minutes later the question he asked me, but had to have it read back or restated. And yet he was asking me to recall upon memory from 15, 16, and 20 years, spontaneously, an answer to a question that he had had months to investigate. Now, this just is absolutely wrong. And many people who took the Fifth Amendment were not guilty of any single crimes. But they took the Fifth Amendment so they would not create a crime of perjury. Because when you try to recall upon your memory anything other than what happens in your life of a major nature, without having the right to have the question and do research, you're a fool to answer that question. It just can't be done. They know it. They trade on the fear, and they trade on the atmosphere that they create by having 150 newspaper men sitting there, having 10, 12 cameras and tremendous lights trained upon the witness, having 8 senators sitting there, a staff of 150 investigators, and pounding away with insinuations that there's something wrong with a fellow there, unless he's experienced and has gone through it before and knows it's all a fake, He can't take that pressure. And he's a fool to try and think. So what Congress is going to do, in my opinion, they're going to force more and more Americans that when they appear in front of a congressional hearing, knowing full well that it's a carnival and it's a publicity-seeking operation, nothing sincere about it, take the Fifth Amendment and get out of there as quickly as possible so that their reputation is not ruined and so they're not convicted of perjury by trick questions.
Well, this is a question you might answer by saying it is none of my business and is not, and I'll ask it anyway. You don't live splendidly. You live fairly modestly. What do you do with the money? What do you do with your money?
I live like I lived 1939 when I moved in the same house I live in today. And I would say that by and large, the majority of my salary that's left after taxes finds its way into some charities in the way of helping some of our members and problems that generate from this job. More of it than I spend myself.
You give it away.
And it pays dividends, let's be honest about it. I expect to get elected. I'm not foolish enough to believe that word of mouth propaganda is better than all the words that ever printed. Either you're right or you're wrong in this business. You have the warehousemen and the people we have in this union talk about Jimmy Hoffa for what he did for them, what he does daily when they call him. More important to me than what this program or what TV or radio will say the next 10 years. Because they're the only ones that are going to defeat me in a convention, nobody else.